Hi, this is IELTS 7 Guru. I'm Ben Adams. Today I'm going to talk to you about a typical opinion essay in IELTS. And more importantly, we'll take a look at a really useful tool for brainstorming new ideas. I call this the discussion clock, and it helps you get new ideas for topics that are kind of hard or topics that you're not really familiar with. So, let's get started.
IELTS 7 Guru. I'm Ben Adams, and today we're going to talk about another IELTS writing task 2 essay. Last time we talked about the advantages and disadvantages essay, and this time we're going to talk about the opinion essay. And like last time, we're going to talk about some different things. We're going to look at understanding a question, brainstorming our ideas, organizing our ideas, then actually writing, and finally a little editing. So to start with, let's look at understanding the question. And today we've got a simple opinion essay, and it's about education. Education is quite a common topic. So here, the topic is university education should be free for all students, regardless of background. So just to help you with this, the key thing here is should be free for all students. In other words, it doesn't matter whether rich or poor, or from different kinds of students, or adults, or older people, or younger people. It should be free for everybody. The other thing we have to look at is the main question itself. And the question here is, to what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, it is important to keep in mind the phrase, to what extent. In other words, how much. So you may totally agree, or somewhat agree, or you're not sure after discussing it, that you're still not sure what your position is. That's okay, but you must make it clear how much. So what I'd like to do to start with is show you a simple brainstorming technique called the discussion clock, which you can see here is a very useful tool to help you come up with ideas about the topic. Now remember, at this point, you don't need to decide if you agree or disagree at all. At this point, we just want some ideas. So here are some common ways to look at. So here are some very common ways to look at different kinds of topics or different kinds of questions. So now the main topics can be different. You can look at different things, but this is a good starting point. So some really common ones are the economy, health, education, the environment, maybe morality, is something moral, is something ethical or not, as well as culture and law and order, and society in general. Now, the best thing to do here is just quickly make some notes about each one, about the topic, and you can kind of the easiest thing to do is ask a simple question like this. So, ask a simple question, what would happen if education was free for all students? This is a good way to help you think about the topic. But remember, you should also consider the opposite. What wouldn't happen if education was free for all students? So, in other words, what would happen if things stayed the same? This is also a good argument for changing things. Maybe if things stay the same and they're pretty bad, then it's a good idea to actually do what is suggested. So let's have a quick look. Let's start with education, because it is about education. Well, if everyone could free, then obviously more people would be able to go to university. Okay. And we can think, what would be the result of this? Well, obviously more people would be educated. Now, if more people were educated, what would happen to the economy? We could probably say, if more people were educated, what would happen? People would be able to do different jobs, able to do better jobs or have better jobs. And you can think of an example. For example, maybe computer programming. We could also think of a negative here, though. So we could also consider, well, what is the cost? We could also say, well, it would cost more money. Would be expensive. And we could ask a question. Who would pay for it? So we can also ask the fairness question, the ethics question. Is it fair for rich people to not have to pay? Is it fair to make education free for rich people too? We could perhaps argue that too. So we'll pop that over here. Society would be fairer and better if more people are educated. Okay, just some basic things like that. Okay, so we've got a couple of possibly negative ideas, and we've got quite a few more positive ideas. As I said, this is just a way to help you come up with ideas. There are other ways to do this too, but this is a nice way to help you think of things that maybe you haven't thought about or you would overlook. Now the next step is to try to put your ideas into some kind of structure, to put your ideas into some kind of plan. So let's have a quick look over here. Okay, so we have here some possible plans to go about doing this. Now usually we have two different ways. You can kind of say reasons why I agree, then reasons why I don't agree. If you do it this way, it's a little bit like advantages and disadvantages, or a little bit like good points and bad points, or reasons why it won't work, or reasons why it will work, reasons why it won't work, something like that. Or you can make one paragraph about one issue, and you can discuss the issue, and then you can talk about another issue. Option 2, you might have several body paragraphs, 3 or 4. Now remember, it does not matter if this is a one-sided essay. It does not matter if it doesn't feel balanced. If you discuss it from different points of view, that's good enough. So let's stop here for a sec. All right, so we have worked out our general plans. We have our two layouts, option 1 and option 2. And now let's quickly get some topic sentences to make it easy for us to focus on what we're going to do. So let's look at the first option. So remember, we've got reasons why it should be free, reasons why it should not be free. So in this case, it's a bit easier just to use on the one hand and on the other hand, because basically we have good things and bad things, reasons why it should be, reasons why it shouldn't be. And to make it easy, we're going to use a there sentence. So on the one hand, there are several reasons why. Now remember with this is a number, so you could say there are 2 reasons why, or there are many important reasons why, or any other option in here. Turning to the other topic sentence, we keep on the other hand, but it's important to have a different topic sentence. Don't use a there sentence again. So here we've just got a simple subject, verb, object sentence, and here the subject is a gerund, a verb ing. So making education free, that's the subject. Making education free would cause problems, would cause some problems too. So that's quite clear. But let's have a look at the next option. Now if you remember, we've got the economy, society and law and order, and we could also bring in some other ideas too we didn't talk about if we wanted to. We could talk about fairness as well. So let's quickly add in another idea here, and just to make that a little more interesting, so let's look at the next option. Here we have 3 different basic paragraphs: the economy, society in general, and the idea of fairness. So let's look at what we could do. So instead of saying on the one hand and on the other hand, because we don't have 2 different contrasting positions, we don't have good and bad, we're just going to talk about different ideas. So we're just going to start with. So to start with, making education free would affect the economy in several ways. So now we know we're going to talk about the economy, how the economy would change, and we're going to discuss 2 or 3 ways that would happen. Then we need to move on to another one. So here we're just going to say, in addition, this change would also affect society as a whole. So this change is talking about making education free for everybody, and what would happen. And it's just going to talk about society. Now we need another one to talk about, and here I've got a very simple idea. We just introduce it. Now you may have noticed that you don't need complicated topic sentences. In fact, it's good to have simple, short topic sentences so you can get them correct. If you don't have correct sentences, you cannot get a 7 in your grammar. So it is important to have some to show that you can make correct sentences if you can. So with this in mind, let's have a look at the 2 essays we've put together. So looking at the first one, and we'll just highlight some of the bits that make it easy to follow what's going on. So we have our 2-sentence introduction. The question is, should it be free? The question is, should it be free for everyone or just some people? The question is, and just highlight the key things that make it easy to follow here. So you can see that we're talking the first reason, and this matches that we're talking about reasons. So the first reason is, the second point is, so we know there's 1 and 2, and so we've only got 2 key points here, and we've developed them. So this is the first reason and the result of this main idea. And here we have another main idea, a second point, how it would affect society in general. Then we say generally what would happen, and then we have a result of this idea. So these are useful phrases to help organize your paragraph. So looking at this one, now we're talking about the most important issue. We can do that. It's always useful to put the most important issue first. You don't have to do it that way, but it's an easy way to write. We've got another problem. So now we've got 2 problems in here. The most important issue is money. Who would pay for it? So in this case, we're asking a question. This is a little different. If this change was made, who would pay for it? Notice it is second conditional. That means we don't think it will be paid. And then notice that everything else is still conditional. Look, still would have to rise, would need to be, would need. So it continues. The idea continues throughout the sentences. Now I have to look at the other problem. Fairness. Ask another question. Then we say what most people say, and then we just have a little phrase to kind of talk about the situation again, in this situation, in this case. Now in this essay, our conclusion is quite clear. We've discussed this point, reasons why, and reasons why not. And so the easiest thing to do is use although, or we could use while or though, to basically contrast them. So although this is true, there are some problems. Then I give my opinion. So it's a nice way to say how much you agree or disagree at the end. Okay, this one's a bit shorter. This one we're just looking at option 2 again. Here we go. These are our ideas: economy, society, fairness. So here we go. So we've got the same topic, nearly the same introduction, but the introduction is a little different. Here we have not asked a question, so we've just said this essay will discuss this and this. Now you may notice it's not 100% consistent because here we have a third issue. So we've got 3 issues, and we just use simple linkers. This one here joins this idea, and this just says what the last issue is. So it doesn't have to be hard. It is really a good idea to always have a linker before every paragraph, or a phrase like this that introduces it very clearly. Okay, so let's have a look. This one is nearly the same. We talked about making education free. The subject would do something in several ways, and we talked about several. The largest impact would be on the economy. Notice that this is a noun, and then we explain why, what would happen, then a result of that. And now this is interesting. And here we've actually said something different. We have introduced the opposite idea. Well, we've introduced the negatives. So we started talking about the positives. That said, however, what would happen? So also again notice would. It's the same as before. We just put it in a different part of the essay. So here we talk about society as a whole. Got would again, to make that clear for you. Here, this is a nice phrase, generally speaking, so it's not always true, but it helps make the point. This is because, just to explain why, this will also mean, so we've got some nice phrases that say what's generally true, why, and what is the result of that. Fairness. We ask another question, and it's the same as we talked about before. So in this case, we can actually use the same conclusion as we did. Now let's just check how big it is. 299, look at that. It's not too bad. So, okay, so we've looked at two different ways of addressing the same kind of question. And remember, you don't need to do it one way or the other way. But it is a really good way, it's really good to practice doing either, because you may find that it's easier for you to write like this way with option 2 or this way with option 1. It does not matter, there are no rules. Also, have a go at a discussion clock. You don't have to use these topics. These are good ones, but there are many others you can use just to help practice getting your ideas down. Alright, so now we have discussed these two different options. What would you prefer to do? If you had this question, what would you like? So, please tell us, write something down here. We've got 83 subscribers, that's great. We have 3,000 views of the other essay, that's wonderful. So write what you think. Which option do you prefer? Do you prefer talking about the reasons for, the reasons against, or would you rather try and use the discussion clock and try to generate more interesting, slightly different kinds of paragraphs?